Welcome to the First 2 Years, an early careers podcast from the Ken. I'm Aksha Chandrasekharan, and this is the season finale. A goodbye episode. But before we unplug the show, I wanted to thank you, our listeners, our most cherished collaborators. We could not have made the show without you, and I don't mean that in a figurative way. For the past 6 months, each week, you have trusted us with your stories. You've shared your curiosities and questions. How to walk away from an unhappy job? Why do some people get promoted over others? Is finding a mentor crucial to my success at work? Must your colleagues also be your friends? And what exactly is cool to wear to work? We have taken all your questions, both big and small, to experts. Best-selling authors, organizational psychologists, HR consultants, founders, and leaders from across the world. This joint project between us at the Ken and you has been one of the most rewarding and meaningful things I've ever worked on. Then why are we ending it? Well, I'll let Rohan answer.
Hi, this is Rohin Dharmakumar. This is probably the first time you're hearing me on the first 2 years. I'm the Ken's co-founder and CEO. We took the hard decision to end the first 2 years for 2 reasons. Firstly, because Akshaya, your wonderful host and our wonderful colleague, is leaving the Ken. Now, normally, when we lose a podcast host, we coach a new host to take over an existing podcast. But in this case, Akshaya's exit made us take a hard look at our initial hypothesis behind the first 2 years. Truth is, picking 18 to 25-year-old professionals as our primary subscriber base helped us sharpen our topics, as you would have realized from past episodes. But it also made our podcast less appealing to a broader subscriber base and audience. Thus, we're going back to the drawing board and remaking plans for a new careers podcast. One that will walk the fine line of being appealing to many more career professionals, managers, leaders, coaches, and founders, but one that will still have the sharp point of view like most of the Ken's podcasts. If you have ideas and tips and feedback for us, please write to us at podcasts@theken.com, or you can even write to me directly at rohin@theken.com. Back to Akshaya for her final episode.
Okay, welcome back to the First 2 Years. It's me, Akshaya, and I'm once again joined by the wonderful Rahil Philippos on the final episode of the First 2 Years. Hi, Rahil.
Hi, Akshay. Wow. Okay, big day. How do you feel?
Well, I think you know this. I've been absolutely paralyzed thinking about this last episode. What is that? Analysis paralysis?
Yeah.
Like you think so much about something for so
Yeah.
long and then you don't do anything about it. Like it's such a difficult thing, right? To figure out what's a satisfying way to end a
Yeah.
show and end a season. And I was searching for the right way to say goodbye for so long. And I've come to the conclusion that the best way to do it, a way that has worked for us for so long, is to do it the Tifty way.
Okay, what does that mean?
Okay, Rahil, stay with me. Tifty is a show about self-discovery.
Right. It's for young, ambitious professionals to help them succeed in
Exactly.
whatever capacity, right? Whatever success may mean for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're with me on this. So if it's a show about self-discovery and we have spent the last 6 months trying to figure out what's holding people back from succeeding.
Right.
Right? So I thought today, since it's the last episode, why not talk to people who have been there, done that, about things that actually propel them forward instead of thinking about what set them back. You know?
Interesting. Okay, so while otherwise we learn from each other's problems and the solutions we found, we can also learn from their happiness, right? Because I mean, you spend a quarter of your life at work. So finding joy there,
What's better than that?
what's better than that?
Exactly.
Even I'm curious though, Akshay, what did people who enjoyed their early career kind of get right? Right? Like, what did they feel had the most impact on their happiness, right? Was it their, I don't know, their role, the company they were at, their peer group? What did you find out?
The thing is, even I was thinking like these will be the factors that determine their happiness, right?
Yeah.
The role, the company, the compensation, all of that. But sometimes very simple things like they moved to a new city and found their independence. You know, in the survey responses, you'll see very simple answers like, or even better, it's simply quitting their first job that brought them a lot of happiness because it taught them what they don't want from their careers
Hmm.
and stuff like that, right? Like a bunch of different factors and very surprising insights from the survey, actually. And the good thing is that we work at the Ken, and one of our undisputable advantages is that we have a very loyal subscriber base that actually engages with us, listens to our podcast, takes all these surveys, and they actively communicate with us. It's like a two-way communication, right? So
it really is pretty amazing. So you went ahead and you asked them directly.
Exactly.
And spoiler alert, they really came through. It's so crazy that you literally got 100 people to take that survey in a matter of 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
They shared their story with us. And honestly, I just can't wait to dig deeper into the survey and really get into it and break it down.
that's exactly what we're going to do, right? So today on the show, for one last time, before we turn the lights off, we've got stories from our listeners about what made them happy in their earlier career. So we're going to end it on a positive note.
That's amazing. So all meditations on the most rewarding aspects of their first job that truly set them up for success. Let's get into it.
Cannot wait.
Okay, just for context, let's start by describing who these people were, the people who took the survey, right? Close to 50% of these people started their careers in the last decade, so between 2010 and 2020.
Oh, so they're all like decades into their careers, reflecting back on what their early career was looking like.
Exactly. And 30% of them were tech employees. The remaining are from different fields like design, product, HR, sales and marketing, and business.
Oh, so a very versatile bunch.
Right.
That's very useful context. Now we can place all the answers with this information, right? And honestly, we were discussing about the factors that contributed most to the happiness of people, right? And you'll be surprised to know that 60% of the people attributed it to peer group and mentors.
That really surprised me because I thought the answer would be like money, your
And
first
money was
paycheck.
one of the options, right? Like they could have totally gone for it, but you'll not believe like 5% of the respondents, that's what, like 5 to 10 people who took the
That's
survey
amazing.
said compensation brought them the most amount of happiness. Who would have thought
Okay, so either they were like grossly underpaid
that it brought them no happiness whatsoever?
Yeah. Or they just like really value the more intangible things.
Yeah, intangible things. And that's actually, since you say intangible, when you're in your college or your placements and stuff, right? You're
Yeah.
always thinking about it in numbers. You're like,
Yeah.
what's the CTC?
Yeah.
How big is the company? What's the scale? You're thinking big.
Yeah.
And you boil it down to just numbers. But after you've gone like decades into your career, you look back, those things don't matter. It's more like the environment you were in. Did you get to learn a lot and
Yeah.
all of that, right? So that was pretty interesting that so many of them said peer group
Yeah.
and mentors were almost equal, like 30% and 30%.
Interesting.
And following peer group and mentors, the thing they said was role.
Wow.
Like the
Okay.
role that they were doing was more
in
important.
their early career,
Yeah.
it's so cool that there are people out there who like found the right fit in terms of their role that early in their career, right?
Yeah,
It's so rare.
I think that's also why it brought them a lot of happiness. Is that they were doing something that they liked. So it was not even the company or the brand name
Yeah.
or like the industry or anything. It was just the role that they were doing. They liked.
Yeah.
They found meaning in it. And after obviously the role, there was companies. Some people said it was the city that made it so interesting. Not a lot of people, but some, like a small minority of people were like, the city made it so great. So a lot of wake up sit moments happening for a lot of
We've
our.
all been there.
We've all been there, no? Yeah. Where did you move first, Rahil, when you got your first job?
My first job was in Noida. So there isn't, it's quite hard to romanticize Noida, to
Noida.
be fair. No disrespect. But
Yeah, I think
but
I had to move back
to Chennai.
to Chennai because it was COVID.
Yeah.
So once again, quite hard to romanticize a city you grew
But
up
did
in.
you have that experience with Bangalore?
Yeah, Bangalore was, I think, the real wake up Akshaya moment. Literally 4 hours away from home, but I was still like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm learning everything for the first time, finding friends. Or I think maybe even moving for college and all that.
Mhm.
But it's different when you move for a job.
Yeah, for sure. It can be like the most liberating experience for so many people who've like
Yeah.
been home their whole lives. And
And
then,
in India, the cultural context is also such that without a reason, you don't get to move out.
yeah.
You don't
You
move out
have
and
to
then
have a reason. And then
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah,
No
it's
one's
that's
moving
all.
to find themselves, dude.
No,
So rare.
everyone's moving just for a job, right?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gaurav. I'm an SRE at the Green Tech. One of the most prominent aspect of my career has been the mentorship which I received during my first job. It was a startup of 7 employees. I joined that startup as a data analyst, but I wore over there multiple hats: data analysis, product management, testing, developing, and fixing issues on software. And it was all possible because I was mentored by my CTO. I got to work with him very closely, both from a professional and at a personal level. And he was a very good soul. He is a very good soul. He taught me about how to have empathy in the product development, that is towards your consumers, users, sales, etc. Some of the two learnings which I have always have kept it as part of my principle are one is his motto, that is do the right thing, irrespectively of wherever you are, whoever you are, and against whoever you are standing. And second thing is devil is in the details, which led me to which helped me in getting much more clear and preciser product requirement and thinking from a very long term perspective in a software engineering. I could go to an extent and say that whatever I am right now, he has been one of the greatest factors for the reason wherever I am.
We've been talking about happiness for so long, but we haven't talked about what does this happiness even mean, right?
Yeah.
It's so abstract,
Mm-hmm.
so coveted, so many of us want it, but it looks different for different people.
Absolutely.
So I was wondering, Rahil, what does being happy at work mean to you?
That is such a
Deep
deep question.
Yeah.
But it's okay. That's a really tough one, Akshaya, because I think about this a lot. I think there's one side of it is I derive a lot of joy from validation, which is kind of unhealthy after a point, right? Where
It could be
you know,
internal as well. Yeah.
but for me, it's very,
Very external.
I guess it's great to feel seen, right?
Yeah.
It's always great for your work to be acknowledged, to not feel invisible. So when I feel like I'm contributing in a meaningful way, and that's being recognized, that makes me really happy. I
Yeah.
also get a lot of happiness when I know that I'm going to, like, when my role is like dynamic, where I know that I'm getting to work on different things.
Yeah.
I tend to get a little stressed out if I'm going into work and doing the same thing every single day. So
Yeah.
I really thrive in that sort of dynamism.
Yeah, like very uncertain, volatile environment.
Yeah.
Things keep changing.
Sounds
which is
terrifying,
like
but-
sounds terrifying because somehow like us journalists sort of seek that out.
Yeah.
There is this thrilling nature in our jobs where
Yeah.
every day you wake up and you don't know
What the day is going to look
what
like.
the day
what's
is going to
on.
look like,
Yeah.
who you're going to speak to. You're constantly meeting new people.
Yeah.
You know, every day you're meeting new people. Every day you're talking to new people. So
Yeah.
I think that's automatically
Exciting.
what,
Yeah.
attracted us to this field.
What about you, Aksha? What does happiness at the workplace look like for you?
I would say, I think all of what you said, a little
Mhm.
bit of everything you said. But for me, I think one of the top reasons would be like feeling creative. Like I equate
Yeah.
feeling creative with feeling joy.
Yeah.
Because that was also like one of the naive reasons why you picked journalism or you picked
Yeah,
writing.
So true. Yeah.
Like I was just like, I really love writing. I love being creative. What is the most stable version of this job? Right. And that was just like, okay, journalism. Professional writing is journalism.
Yeah.
So even if like 10%, 20%, 30% of my job is like writing a creative email or putting together an interesting script, all of that gives me a lot of joy. So any job, and creativity is also like all about experimenting,
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
new things every day. So it's part of what you said, but in my mind, the word that comes to my mind is like creativity.
Yeah.
And this is also like a very, like you said, it's a very abstract thing. So we wanted to also define it for the people who are taking the survey. What does happiness look like? Not in a very theoretical, not to theorize
Yeah.
happiness, but I'm totally going to theorize happiness. But we thought like whenever you're feeling proud about the work you're doing, you're
Yeah.
probably experiencing happiness at work. Whenever you feel like you are in a flow state where you're zoning in on the activity that you're doing and everything else withers away, like you're so
Right.
engaged, then you're probably experiencing happiness at work. Or when you're contributing to something, like you
Yeah.
said, bigger than yourself, where you feel like there is a purpose to what you're doing, you're helping people, you're deriving like meaning and purpose from it, then you're experiencing happiness.
That's interesting.
And all the responses, all the questions, also we kind of shaped it around.
That kind of understanding of happiness.
Exactly.
You asked your respondents what achievement they felt like they were most proud of back in their early career.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if you got any surprising responses to that question.
I think validation was a big one. Everything we spoke about, like
Yeah.
feeling that validation. And it was, I had reached out to some of the people who had filled out the survey, right? And I was talking to them about why validation meant so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, said like because they were trying something for the first time, testing waters, they don't know whether they're good at it or not.
Yeah.
So having that culture of feedback where someone's telling you, hey, this is good, you should do more of that. Hey, this isn't good, do less of that. Gives you that third opinion.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're always thinking in binary, like good or bad.
Yeah.
Like you have to think about the third option, and the outside circumstance only can provide you that.
Correct. Yeah. And yeah, and it also goes to prove, for listeners who are now in leadership roles. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't matter if you're like
Any managerial position, right?
yeah, like whether you have two people reporting to you, one person reporting to you, have a huge team, but like it really makes you realize that one little bit of validation that you give someone when you make
Yeah.
someone feel seen, it obviously sticks with them for so long, right? Like
Yeah.
even with this survey, you have people responding about like the first couple of years of their career, which is literally like a decade ago,
Yeah.
and those things stick, right?
Yeah,
those
those-
shape you as a professional.
Yeah, I think the jobs that made them a more confident working professionals are the jobs that brought them most amount of happiness. Another big thing was that feeling of high ownership, which was a big one. A lot of them spoke about how they independently led a project, they launched something on their own, or an insight that they gave helped the company in a big way. So when they had high ownership, and they were also able to see impact. Like they owned something and it actually succeeded. Or sometimes even if it failed, some bets failed, the fact that they owned it gave them a lot of,
Got it.
you know,
It's always great when someone kind of trusts you enough to let you take these big bets.
yeah,
right?
and take a chance on you
Yeah.
because there is no proof of concept that you will get it right.
Exactly.
They
yeah.
just believe in the potential and they're letting you. So a lot of the answers were as much.
Nice.
Okay, so we also asked them what's the best piece of early career advice they've received. And we sort of cherry picked like one or two to play for you guys. First up, we have someone called Abhishek Ghosh. And here's the best piece of advice he's received.
Hi, my name is Abhishek Ghosh. I work in clinical research domain, having 2 decades of work experience. An early career advice which I had received from one of my senior was, don't assume, ask and seek clarification. This advice has benefited me in the long run. Well, when we start our careers as an intern or as a fresher, tasks are delegated to us by our seniors. Typically, the complex up the value chain tasks are kept by the seniors for obvious reasons. While as freshers, we are given the easier, lower end value task. But if you see somewhere down the work stream in the project life cycle, both these tasks, I mean the task done by the seniors and the task done by the freshers, will merge to create the final work package and the final deliverables. So it is quite essential to ask the fundamental question why we are doing this task to get the big picture.
Okay, that's such simple advice, but it's so hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, because you're moving from college to career, right? And you're
Yeah.
sort of conditioned to follow instructions.
Yeah.
And you sometimes forget you can ask why. You don't
Yeah.
have to
to just do
blindly
it.
follow everything. And this respect for authority figures and all of that
Yeah.
deprives you from having that first principles thinking and asking why you're doing what you're
Yeah.
doing. So I think that's great advice. Next, we have Kanupriya, who also has this very personal incident that she shared with us. Let's hear from her.
Hi, I'm Kanupriya. A colleague at work suggested listening to the first 2 years sometime back. Since then, I have been a listener and a big fan. My first job was a transformation journey for me. So, I had been an introvert. I did not really enjoy talking to strangers back then. But ironically, my first job was field sales. I had to continuously go out, talk to strangers, build new relationships, ultimately sell. So once I left from that place, I think I was a much more confident person. I was ready to take on the world. I could talk my mind, and I would not be scared of judgment. So I think I took a very very long journey in that job. Having said that, I started field sales during COVID. It was not easy, and the market was steel, so it did not qualify as essentials. So then it was very hard for a lot of people to get through the sales funnel and actually convert. During that period, there were a lot of decisions that were needed to be taken. A lot of tough calls were made, which involved a lot of people, their livelihoods, their everything that they've built over the years. For me as a newbie, it was very tough to decide, and honestly, to take the right decision at that moment. I didn't know what the right decision was, and I was inclined to take an emotional decision. Uh, at that moment, I also found it very difficult to be aligned with other people's thought processes because they were thinking very practically, and I was not. In the middle of this, my manager gave me a very, very good advice. He told me that do not quit at a low. At least give it a fair try. If you have not tried enough, then you do not quit. However, if a job is making you change yourself or making you change your core values, then maybe it's time to move on. I think from there on, I have been stuck to this advice. I have taken decisions keeping my core values at the center of everything. It has not just helped me navigate through that role, but then it keeps helping me taking different decisions in my life even now. So I think I'll always remain grateful to that person and that advice.
Wow, that's some solid stuff.
Yeah, I think essentially like don't take permanent decisions based on your temporary feelings, right? Great advice.
A lot of these decisions are made only when the opportunity kind of shows up, when
Arises.
you're in a tough situation. So yeah, it's interesting, and very often some of the biggest lessons come from mistakes,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of those mistakes are made in your early career.
Early career, and that's exactly why we also wanted to ask them what is a mistake that you made and what did you learn from it,
Yeah.
because these are sort of the pivotal moments that shape you.
Yeah.
Like more than the achievements from your early career, which may not be that many, you have a lot of mistakes that you would have
always
learned
remember
from.
the mistakes.
You always
Yeah.
remember the mistakes. So a big one that came out of that question was competing instead of collaborating.
That's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
and it made me wonder, like we're almost programmed to believe that we need to compete with each other. You're constantly you must have written competitive exams to get into a pedigreed institution. Then you're trying to get into the best, like once again competition during placement to get
Yeah.
into that one dream company. So your mindset is such that you're constantly comparing yourselves to the people around you while you should be working with them.
And your workplace is the one place where you can leverage different skill sets, right? If you
Yeah.
know how to do that and you get over the fact that okay, we're peers and we are quote unquote competing,
Yeah.
you all come in with a different set of skills, and when you figure out how to kind of collaborate
Yeah.
that way, magic happens.
And another thing that they kept going back to was rushing things and not having patience, like chasing designation or chasing a particular promotion. And when that doesn't come through, you want to switch jobs. Somebody literally said, I kept switching jobs till I realized that the jobs weren't the problem, it was me who was the problem. Like I was going from job to job without fixing the core issue. So I felt like that speed, the pace with which we expect results was also one big thing that they touched upon. I think that's a wrap. That's all the survey questions that we had for our
Nice.
listeners. Thank you, Rahel, for hosting the last 3 episodes with me.
Thanks for having me, Aksha. Just know that 10 years from now, if I am filling out an early careers podcast, this moment,
I know where she's going with this.
this moment is going to be
On
that survey.
this podcast has been the highlight of my career. Doing this has been truly a privilege and honor. I cannot believe 6 months have passed and we have done 30 episodes and we have built such a loyal base of listeners. Well, that is unfortunately all the time we have this week and forever. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have, do check out our back catalog. Maybe go back and listen to some of the episodes we mentioned today if you haven't already. This show was written, hosted, and produced by me, Akshay Chandrasekharan, from the newsroom of The Ken. Anushka Mukherjee was our initial producer. Thank you, as always, to Tifty's sound engineer, Rajiv CN. Special thanks to my team, Hari Krishna, Rahel Philippos, and Snigdha Sharma for all the support. And I'm especially grateful to all of our listeners. It has been such a joy to make this show for you, to interact with some of you. If you have any parting words to share, you can still reach out to us anytime at podcast@the-ken.com. The email ID will be in the show notes. We'll continue to get these emails, so keep writing in. Thank you and goodbye.